Welcome. My name is Thomas Steininger. I welcome you to Radio Evolve, our global webcast for consciousness and culture. I'm very happy to have with me Professor Kazuma Matoba. Kazuma, welcome to Radio Evolve.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Kazuma, you are chair of practical philosophy in the University of Witten, Herdecke in Germany, but you are born in Japan.
No, I'm not chair.
Oh,
I'm not chair. I'm just a member of the philosophy, practical philosophy. The chair is
okay.
Professor Matthias Kettner. He's my boss. Yeah.
Then I took the wrong information from the website. Thanks for that. But you're teaching at the University in Witten, Herdecke in Germany.
Yes. I belong to chair of practical philosophy, but I'm not philosopher. I'm a communication scientist, and I'm responsible for communication science and intercultural education. Mainly I'm teaching communication, practical communication method and communication theory.
Yes, and you are interested in communication since many years, yes. And also coming from Japan and also having studied in Germany, intercultural communication is something that really also caught your interest. You developed your own form of communication in that, but you're also interested in dialogical philosophy of Martin Buber and David Bohm. Yeah. But you are also leading a program of global social witnessing. And yes. I would like to ask you, global social witnessing, that sounds very intriguing. What is this? How did you get to this? And what is global social witnessing?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That I have researched many years dialogue process, and Martin Buber, David Bohm, and also communication style, dialogical form, and so on. And what I'm doing, global social witnessing, is, so to say, extension of this concept, dialogue or dialogical communication, because witness, my understanding is, witnessing is like a Buddhistic concept, pure experience. And maybe, pure experience is conceptualized by Kitaro Nishida. He was a founder of the Kyoto School in Japan. And he was very influenced by William James. And the both has similar concept, pure experience. Mm-hmm. As a pure experience means, how can I experience you non-linguistically and, of course, non-judgmentally, but how can you encounter you, and how can I recognize you as you so is? Yeah, this is, so to say, pure experience. And originally this concept, of course, came from Buddhism. And my understanding is, witnessing is not so different from this pure experience. And we apply pure experience or witnessing in global social witnessing. This term, global social witnessing, was coined and developed by Thomas Hübl about 5-6 years ago in the context of collective trauma research. Mm-hmm. And we have many information in broadcasting and the social media. For example, we are facing always with refugee problem in the EU or abroad or in the United States and so on. But somehow we cannot sense anymore. Yeah, we have so many information about refugee and about suffering people on the other side of the earth. And we are accustomed to get this information without feeling, without emotion. And that's why, how can I be much more present with this information of suffering people like refugee people? And then we can use also the concept bearing witness. Bearing witness is also theoretical and therapeutic concept from the psychotherapy. And how can be one with you? It's a kind of oneness concept, interconnected concept, as a bearing witness. So this bearing witness concept and Buddhistic and that's developed by Thomas Hübl come into together in the global social witnessing concept, which we are now researching and also which we are now educating in the universities.
You made a difference between information and sensing. And you're right. I mean, we have a lot of global information. We are hit with global information from all channels, and everyone knows it's much too much. So in this difference between sensing and information, how can we imagine, what are you doing to go beyond the information and come into something that is witnessing, this bearing witness, that is sensing? What do you do?
Yeah, I think we can say as scientists that the universe consists of mainly three elements: material, energy, and information.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know somehow what is material. We have much researched and we have much material. What is this computer and how is this book contained and so on. Also we know about various material. And we know also somehow very much about energy. What is energy? What kind of energy are there? But the science does not know exactly what is information. And also information science and communication science and linguistic does not exactly know what is information.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, of course, very crucial concept when we talk about information in the physics. But physics has also some kind of definition about information. And I always refer to the definition of physics as information is energy in motion, or energy is information in motion. It means, there are, so to say, information which can be carried and conveyed between body. And firstly, we can sense this information with our body. Yeah. So that's interbody communication with our body is first step of our communication or information transmission between person A and person B. For example, the word emotion. Emotion is like this word motion. It is some information which is carried out as energy, as motion between person A and person B. And my body firstly catch this motion or this energy or this information in motion. And emotion is in our neural system expressed as feeling. As a feeling is linguistically expressed emotion. But emotion itself is not yet expressed linguistically. But somehow we could not develop our sensing to catch this information from outside or in the communication. Yeah. So the question is how we can catch this information with our body. But somehow we know that we sense something when something happens outside, or when somebody comes in my office, that my body reacts something, and my body senses something. And this is, so to say, guided information or received information from the sender. Yeah.
So this is something that happens in any kind of communication. And you do this also on an intercultural global level, where where you sense to something that is related to the social reality of our global society. Just for the sake of our listeners, how do you do this? What is the setting of this global social witnessing? Are you coming together on Zoom? Are you coming together in groups? Are you meeting in places? How can we envision this witnessing? How does the practice look like that you're doing there?
There are many methods, and for example, you can also exercise global social witnessing individually alone.
Okay.
Or you can exercise, you can practice this witnessing also in a small group or in a large group.
Okay.
And in my case, for example, at university, I can show a picture of one event which taking place in the world. For example, one picture of refugee people who are suffering on the other side of the world, or refugee camp.
Mm-hmm.
And firstly, the student observes this picture and then collects some information from this picture and also outside, from outside from this picture. For example, what do they know about this scene or this event?
Right.
And what do they observe or what do they see in this picture? And we can collect objective information from this picture and also from the context where this event took place. And then we can sense much more, as we can feel much more this picture, as first with our body, with our sense, with our emotion, and of course with our mental. Yeah, so on the mental level, on the emotional level, and also on a bodily level, we can sense this picture. Yeah, and then so far as I observed, some kind of field can emerge between the student and this picture, or some kind of field can emerge among the student, among the participant. And this field, in this field, you can receive some kind of information, yeah, some kind of voices of the picture, some kind of unmuted voices from this picture or from behind this picture. And the student can exchange this kind of information, what they have sensed or what they have heard. Yeah. And then, so to say, yeah, we have some kind of feeling to oneness, or felt oneness. It is much more than empathy. As empathy is, I can sense you, I can feel you from the inside of your body, of you. Yeah. But oneness or felt oneness is, I feel you in my inside because I mirror you or the world in my inside, and this in this inside, in my inside, I feel this event, I feel these people in the picture. Yeah. And from this experience, I receive much more information. But as I have said, at the same time, a kind of feed, maybe in the words of the Clasoto Sharma, generative social feed, is emerging. And then it is, so to say, source of non-local information or source of information where we can receive something. And with this information, we can be much more oneness to the world, or we can witness something, event or people from the full system awareness.
So just for the clarity, For example, what is this something that you can perceive this way? You have this picture, you are either on your own or you're in a group. You see this picture, you have the information of the picture, you have some context of the picture. There are some emotions coming up watching this picture. There is some relationship building to the picture, as I understand, and there's an emotional field between you and the image, between you and the group and the image. I can see that there's some field happening that has a certain quality. But you're talking also about a kind of information that comes this way. And I'm curious, just for example, what kind of information is this? And what do you do with this information?
Yeah, maybe it's better to talk about my experience.
Yes.
I experienced a kind of global social witnessing praxis or exercise in 2017 in a big event. And in this event, there was systemic consecration as global social witnessing exercise or praxis. And this systemic consecration was facilitated by Stefan Hausner from Germany and Thomas Hübl from Germany. The topic was North Korea, because in 2017, we are very faced with this nuclear power event from North Korea, or between North Korea and USA. And as you know, in the system consecration, 6 people was selected to the role, like Japan, China, South Korea, North Korea, USA, Russia, and so on. So about 6-7 people was selected for this function. And the audience was very large system consecration. The audience was almost more than 100 people. And I was not selected as Japan or as China. I was just one of the audience. I observed this event in a social or system consecration. And yeah, I said I was observer, but actually I witnessed what has happened in this systemic consecration. And this process of consecration around the event of North Korea, together with South Korea, China, USA, Japan, it triggered me very, and my body reacted somehow very strange, and I did not feel comfortable in this context as observer or eyewitness. Yeah. And yeah, I was very triggered, and I was very affected by what was happened in this event. It took about almost 2 or 3 hours. And after this event, I came back to home, and I don't know exactly, I had a dream or I had, so to say, got a kind of information, but I immediately wanted to write something in a paper. And I wrote in the following way: there was a father and mother, and they were happy, and the father, the man, has left, and the mother is alone at home, and she should raise her children. She has 2 sons, older son and younger son, and she should educate and raise her sons. And she gives everything to her son what she has: education, nutrition, food, love. Also, she gives everything. And 2 sons were grown up and very happy. But one day, the young son has attacked his mother and raped. And then this son, as his old son, but he has just cut down his old son in two parts. Yeah. And I got this information and I wrote down in my diary. And this is, of course, so to say, yeah, some metaphoric information about this concentration situation. The father is Indian and the mother is China, and two sons are Japan and Korea. And China was raped by Japan, and Korea was divided by Japan into two parts. Yeah, and I don't know why I got this information. Yeah, but this information accompanies me somehow in the next 2 or 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And in the next 2 or 3 years, from 2017 until now, the process of nuclear power and nuclear game between Japan, North Korea, China, and USSR is running still, yeah. And I can witness every time, whenever what is happening in North Korea or between North, South, and Japan and USA and so on. So I'm always somehow very connected with this area, with North Korea, with South Korea and Japan and so on. And so I witness every time, and I somehow are part of this concept, this constellation, and this system. Yeah. And so that's my thought and my observation, how to read newspaper and how to get information from the broadcasting or social media concerning North Korea or nuclear and so on, is very different from before.
Mm-hmm.
I am within in this event,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very connected with this event,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm witnessing every time what is happening there. Mm-hmm. And this is my first experience of global social witnessing. Yeah, this is my pure experience. Yeah.
Fascinating. And just assuming that other people will make similar, different, but similar experiences with maybe constellation work, maybe reading the newspaper, in what way ever, they have this different relationship to social news as you're describing. And it seems that in the Global Social Witnessing Lab that you are working also with people around the globe who do this kind of practice. And I guess that the people will describe when they hear the news now, when they read the newspaper, when they watch TV, they have a different relationship to what they hear. What do they do with this different information, with this different relationship? What's the consequence of this practice? What's the consequence for you? Mm-hmm. What's the consequence for the people you're training in that? Mm-hmm. What do you try to achieve by doing this with other people?
Yeah. So I think each participant of a small global social witnessing practice or also in a large practice of global social witnessing, of course, each person has individual different experiences about witnessing or about this connection with event or with witnessed people or person. But I can say in general that the outcome of this global social witnessing, where you can experience, so to say, that there is no difference between the witness as a person mm-hmm. and the witnessed. Yeah. And the outcome is, me including, I become much more pro-social. And I observe always after the global social witnessing, students become much more pro-social and do some kind of pro-social action. So they feel much more connected with the world or with the event which was witnessed, and they want to be much more pro-social.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, so to say, outcome which I observe many times.
Mm-hmm. And I also can imagine if people do that, how the relationship to all kind of social realities around the globe change in the way that it's not kind of this objective propositional information that you become, but it's becoming something that you are part of, that you are involved, and that also, I mean, you talked about parents raping. These are very direct life experiences and images that you're using. Yeah. And experiencing this world in this different way that is not informational in the usual sense we talk about information, changes my relationship to what's going on in the US, for example, right now, or what's going on right now in India, in a way that I become much more involved. Mm-hmm. And I can see that it becomes much more multidimensional. Reality becomes much more multidimensional. And it also affects me in a way that I see real life dynamics in all of this. Is part of the idea of doing this social global witnessing to create this multidimensional experience and to come together as, also in networks, in global networks, to create a different social involvement. Where do you go with this?
Also we have no empirical research about this outcome, also not yet. And we want to do it maybe in the next 2 years or 3 years after the conference. But my hypothesis is also some kind of perspective change is taking place through this global social witnessing. And from I perspective to you perspective, and then we can transcend this I and you perspective toward we perspective, so to say. So I see you, I witness you, and I and you are separated in the observation process. But when I witness you with 3 levels, with my body, with my emotion, and also mental level, then I can be aware of much more your being. And maybe when we have much more time to witness you or witness each other with our body, with our sense, and so on, then I feel much more connected with you. Mm-hmm. And so I can have a kind of new perspective, not only from me, from my inside, and not only from the other side through you, but also from our we perspective. Also from our we perspective, I can witness me and you. Mm-hmm. And this kind of perspective change or perspective taking, it is of course conscious taking or conscious change can take place through global social witnessing, but I cannot say this is only one method. There are also another methods like witnessing in the Zen Buddhism. There are also some kind of exercise or practice for changing and for taking another perspective. But global social witnessing is one method for this perspective taking. And to catch, so to say, full system awareness?
The full system awareness needs a lot of information about the system. So when we talk about our global system, we talk about political systems, we talk about economical systems, we talk about social systems, we talk about cultural systems, we even can talk about spiritual systems. Is your experience that in this kind of presencing that these different systems come together in a kind of a shared wholeness? Or how do you create this multidimensional experience that you're talking about?
How can I create these multidimensional experiences?
Yeah. It seems that you talk about an integration of different systems, an integration of different perspectives. How do they come together?
Also, I think the key competence or key condition is how to get a kind of information from the field or from generative social field, which can be emerging in such a witnessing mode of consciousness. Yeah, and this information can help to taking change or taking perspective, you know. And without this information sometimes can be like a metaphor, or sometimes can be like a poem, which I got after this systemic consecration in 2017. Or maybe this information is much more somatic information. But anyway, this kind of information, which is somehow created from the field, can push us to this full system perspective.
Is your experience that this does change people?
Yeah.
You mentioned before that they become more social involved. How does this look like, and in which other ways you feel that people are changing through this practice?
Yeah, in my university, for example, after my seminar, some people or some students want to be more active in the social action or social activism, or some people are working for the refugee, and some people are much more active for suffering people and so on. As in the sense, pro-social action they are taking.
And do you think this is kind of a practice that we should introduce as a kind of a social practice in different countries, in different societies on a global scale? Is this something where you feel this is a social practice that we as a society should introduce in how we deal with our input and information?
Yes, I think as Thomas Hübl and Claude Sharma called such a tool as a social technology. And global social witnessing is also a kind of social technology. And I see this social technology or global social witnessing as an educational tool for transformative learning. And in order that this technology can be used and implemented in the education area as an education tool or as a tool for transformative learning, we should do much more empirical research. Yeah. And the first step is organizing international conference, which was originally planned in the last year in March at Witten Herdecke University, but because of pandemic, we have postponed, And we are now organizing the postponed conference now in March, but virtually online. And this is, so to say, the start of our research. And for this conference, we have invited 10 researchers from the neuroscience and sociologists and psychologists, and also philosophers and so on, and also some activists and artists who are also using this technology, this global social witnessing. And together with these people, we want to make much more progressive research and research project in order to introduce this method in the education.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, when you do research about this methodology, what are you researching for? Is it the kind of information that people get, how people change, or how this kind of information helps to interact differently between individuals, but also on a global scale? What are your expectations, and what are you looking for when you do this research?
Maybe we are creating many hypotheses to
Mm-hmm.
verify these hypotheses, and in order this tool can be much more trustful. But one hypothesis is how is the relationship between this emerging field and consciousness transformation. Yeah. And for example, talking about field among us, or among me and the event, and there is some kind of concept like coherence. Yeah. And how we can measure coherence in the context of global social witnessing among the people, among the participant, or among participant and event. And there are some methodology to measure coherence as a group coherence.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can find out some kind of correlation, and correlation between high coherence or low coherence and consciousness transformation. Yeah. How has my consciousness transformed as a consciously, as a subjectively? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of correlation we can also measure, and we can also verify. This is one method to verify one hypothesis.
Mm-hmm. I would like to ask you about this global part of global social witnessing. I mean, as I hear you, I understand that this creates coherence, that this creates this different kind of information. It creates also, changes people in the way that it makes them related to what before was just information, if I may say it this way. All these are differences that I can understand, and I also can see how the field between information, the photograph, the people, how this changes. Your emphasis that this has to happen on a global scale, that's at least how I interpret it. What's the global aspect of doing this, and how does the global aspect show itself in the work that you are doing?
As a global, in this concept, global social witnessing means as a global event in my inside.
Okay.
Yeah. And social means not social event, but social means together with our people. Also, I and my friends, my people, together witness global event.
Mm-hmm.
And then this global event is not anymore global, it is in my inside.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the meaning of global social witnessing.
So the global is basically the object of my witnessing. That we are talking about something that's not just happening in my family, that's not just happening with my best friend. We are happening something that, so to say, is of a global scale, has a global importance. For example, the conflict between North and South Korea that you described is not just a local conflict. It has obviously a global attention. And all our worlds are full of not just what's happening to my friends, but events that happen to all of us globally. I mean, what just happened in the Capitol in Washington was a global event. I mean, it happened there, but it created images, and I'm sure this Capitol shaman will stay with us for the times to go. This is an image that is part of our global consciousness now. And people storming the Capitol, the riots, all what it implicates, this is an event that is global and historic. People in 100 years will know of this event. And we are all, to some degree, full of this event. There are some events like the Second World War. But also events like the birth of Christianity that are part of our making. The fact, just a single fact, that you focus on global events in this makes me think that there is also an interest in something that I would call a global consciousness. Because people, to some degree, everyone is aware a little bit of global news, but there's also not necessarily a lot of intention in that. But it seems that you make the point that this is important. That this is something that is important to have a relationship with.
Yes.
And that is something we should pay attention to. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, there is global news and local news. I live in a small, not small, but in a middle-sized town in Germany, in Dortmund. And what is happening is here is, so to say, local news. And for example, what is happening in North Korea surrounding nuclear things, it is global news. And climate change is also a kind of global. But global has some kind of connotation. It is something very far from me, far from local. But for example, climate change as global phenomena is not far from me. I am next to this global phenomena, this climate change. And I'm connected, and I'm very interconnected with this climate change. And I see some kind of relation between me and climate change, between me and global event. And then we always quoting the concept of relational responsibility by Emmanuel Levinas. When I am in the relation, I'm responsible for you. And it doesn't matter how far this event is, global, far from me, or local, but some way I'm related to the event, to you, to these people, on the other side of the people, on the other side of the earth, then I'm responsible. And that's why global social witnessing is our conceptually based on the philosophy of Levinas. And Levinas is also using the concept face. Our face has function so that the other person can feel responsibility to this face. When I see your face, when I see the face of suffering people on the street, so far as I see the face, I am responsible for this face, for this person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then exactly said, this global or local has no meaning. So everything is local.
Mm. That's also really something that stays with me when I listen to you, because usually this multidimensional relationship to reality, we have to things that we consider being local, things that happen to my friends, to my family, in my neighborhood. I have emotional relationships. I dream of them. There's all these dimensions are part of my relationship. But this is usually not the case for global information. Global information usually goes in a very particular layer of my psychology, where I kind of have what are the political consequences of that, and of course I have really, emotions about it, but it's all emotions to this kind of objective informations. But the way I hear you, and correct me if this is wrong, is because in this witnessing practice, you develop these different forms of relationship to events that are global events. The difference between local and global disappears to some degree, because all has the same full human experience, and it's not just on the informational level, it becomes fully human.
Yeah, or maybe I can say in a following way that through global social witnessing, I can find out hidden relation between me and you, between me and him or her, because the relation is always there, but we cannot see from somewhat, I don't know which reason, but we cannot see. And global social witnessing make it visible, make invisible relation or hidden relation visible. And then the dialogue begins. When I see somebody in a dialogue, I want to respond. And this is, so to say, basic condition for responsibility. Respond-able responsibility.
I see that we are also coming to the end of our time here. And I just wanted to ask you, if people are interested in your work and what you're doing, what's the best place to go to? Where do people find information about global social witnessing?
Get our information?
Yes.
Yes. As I have said, we are organizing conference from March 15 to 18. It is virtual online information conference, and you can find website of this conference, www.globalsocialwitnessing.org, as a global social witnessing without hyphen, one word. And there you can find the conference information, and my article about global social witnessing will be published soon. And yeah, I can send you, who are interested in this paper, I can personally send this paper to everybody. Yeah.
So people, I guess on the website, they find your email address. And
yes.
If people are interested in this paper, they can write to you and you will send the paper to them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kazuma, thank you very much. Thank you for this conversation. And thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.